All right, let's go. All right, so I'm Maverick. This is Maverick Diaries. I'm going to be talking about on this first episode about me and my life. And if anybody wants to go into any questions about anything specific, I'm more than happy to talk about more, obviously, and share more with everybody. This channel is all about bringing people together, talking about different subjects, and open up everybody's mind. At the end of the day, we all have to be collectively together as one. Anyway, let's go in. So, introduction, I want to talk about me, Maverick. So, I'm going to talk about my life. I don't want to keep everybody up, so I'm going to really run through it. But like I said, if anybody wants any questions, just comment below and I can go into more detail about any of the chapters in my life. So, I was basically born in the UK, in London. My parents, my mom a graphic designer, and my dad businessman, working mainly with hotels and different businesses, starting up different businesses. My dad got an opportunity in St. Lucia, I think it was, somewhere in the Caribbean, basically. There's details there. I can find out more if anybody wants to hear more about. We went to the Caribbean, St. Lucia, Antigua, Curacao in total. My dad had job opportunities there to start hotels. My mum followed as a graphic designer. She found jobs in St. Lucia. She found a really good job. But we generally did about 4 to 5 years in the Caribbean, and that was we left London when I was 4 months, so the beginning of my life was in the Caribbean. It ended because of my parents splitting up. So again, if anybody wants to hear more details about that, I'm more than happy to go into that because it's actually a cool story on itself of what happened. But yeah, they divorced and my mom took me back to Cyprus. That's where I'm from originally. My grandparents, everybody I know, we're all from Cyprus. It's a beautiful island in Europe. It's European, but we're actually in the Middle East, not far from Egypt, Israel, Lebanon. But we went back there because my mom's dad and mother, her parents were based in Cyprus. So they grew up in London, but they took the decision to go back to Cyprus, where they came from, and live the rest of their lives happily there, which they did. They built, my grandfather, great builder, built a beautiful house with his own hands. He was a great stonemason, did some great stonework. Again, if anybody wants to hear more details about that story, and so my granddad, wow, what a man, and what he accomplished in life and what he did, crazy, crazy interesting. Opens up your mind for sure. He was one guy that really, I think, started to open up my mind and made me think about a lot of different things in life. But yeah, we went to a village. It was a village in the mountains called Apshu. The translation to that is literally bless you, and it's like 35 minutes away from Limassol City. My mom and myself lived there for like 2 years of my life. It helped my mom out because she was able to work and do her thing, and my grandparents were there to bring me up, and it was good to be with my grandparents and learn the language through my grandfather and grandmother, and learn that village lifestyle. It was beautiful in the mountains, the greenery, the freedom you had. Like, the house was like maybe 10 minutes away from the village center, where you had like one main church and one post office, one shop that was like a cafe, a shop. It was a supermarket as well, and you could go there and eat, have dinner. You had all these old people playing like backgammon and that. Again, that story itself, I can go into more detail if you want to hear about it. It's really cool, like my upbringing up in the mountains in the village in Cyprus. But anyway, my mom eventually figured it out and got an apartment in a nice neighborhood, middle class neighborhood in Cyprus, in Limassol, and it was like a 6-story or 7-story building. We were about on the 5th or 4th floor. Might be wrong there, could have been the 3rd. But it was it was like 3-bedroom. I had my own playroom, I had a bedroom, and then my mom had a bedroom, and then I think we had one bathroom, a nice kitchen with like not an island, but you had like a nice bar section, and the living room, and your balcony. It was nice, it was good. Really, like I had it all, honest, when I was a kid. my mum worked her ass off to try and give me the best. And again, if you want to hear more detail about that area and what life was like and what happened exactly there, I'm more than happy to share. It was an amazing experience. From there, we ended up moving to another neighborhood. It was just better. It was easier. It was like a 2-story house that the guy or family, I don't know, they rented it out. The bottom floor as a house, and then the second floor as a house. We lived on the second floor. And again, I always had a games room that had my drum set in there. When we got to that house, I remember I requested that as a present. Ended up getting it. I was like, what? It was a nice house, but it was, for my mum now when I look back, it was better for me because we had space. I was growing up building tree houses with my friends and playing hide and seek games. Eventually we got into Jackass and we started all this crazy recording with cameras and jumping off containers. And again, if I can go into more detail with that was a fun period that I can remember very, very vividly compared to some of the more past events. I'm gonna have to like interview my mom and ask her just some questions just to be a bit more specific if I get any comments here. But yeah, from that house, which was really cool, my mom met someone who she knew in her past, and she was like in university or school, I can't remember exactly, but they both went their own ways. I don't think they ever dated, but they went their own ways. They liked each other, fond of each other, knew each other, and ended up reconnecting and got together. But it was like a slow process. My mum didn't bring him in straight away. I walked in on them. I remember in that house, but it was really cool. Again, if you want to hear it more, let me know. That was super cool. I got into my directing there. I directed a couple of videos. And I mean, through all this as well, I would go back and forth and see my dad every like 2 weeks on a weekend. So I'd go and see him for Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So he came in the beginning, to be fair, in the mountains in the village. He tried it again, didn't work out, and then he ended up finding his own place. But he went to another city, which is like 45 minutes away, an hour away from the city I lived in. So I would see him every other week, and it was cool. My dad, had a really good job, and had the flashy car, had a completely different life to what I was used to growing up with my mom. Though my mom gave me everything, I'm not saying it wasn't as luxurious. It was just to a different level, and he's a guy as well, right? So if you want to hear more of that, for sure. But yeah, that happened throughout my life until I would say I became about 16, and things changed in my life. But I was about 14 at that house. Eventually, Mario, that's his name, he came into my mom's life, and we moved into an actual nice, like proper house where we got to design the bedroom, and I had like my bedroom and my kind of like TV room all in one, my ensuite bathroom. It was a beautiful, really nice house, and we were in a nice neighborhood as well. And then from that we just escalated and went to an even better neighborhood with like big ass houses. And a good friend of mine that I grew up with from like the age of 5, he was my neighbor. And yeah, again, if you want to hear more about that, well, the first one, which I need to continue with, but if you want to hear more of anything, just let me know. But yeah, the house was really good. That's when my parents got married. That whole story there. I really got into like with my friends gun games, and we would like create our own dens, and skateboarding, and football became a really big thing back then. But like when I was in that house, and going to football camp and playing football in the street, and then just in like abandoned houses, not abandoned houses, but abandoned houses that have kind of been built. It was really fun. Really got into my recording even more than and I heavily got into American Pie, which was probably the worstest thing anybody can get into at that age. So that influenced me in like drinking and partying, and I wanted to make a movie that was like that, and I got inspired by the Scary Movie, and I tried to make a movie like that. It was just, at my age, like 15, 16, I was like, really, it was, when I look back, I really had a wild imagination. Anyway, we ended up moving to this other neighborhood. By then I was probably like 17, I want to say. I had my first girlfriend. Things were like really moving fast, and it was, you know, there was a lot of changes. I didn't want to move that house, and yeah, I was really becoming like a man. I started working with my stepfather at his establishment, started learning how to make money, how to spend money when you have money at a young age, and, you know, going out to bars at young ages. That whole chapter was super fun as well. And again, if you want to hear more about that, let me know, because a lot happened there. And then what happened in my life, there was a lot of build up. I mean, that chapter up in that really nice neighborhood, school wasn't going really good for me. The first ever girlfriend I ever had, I lost, and it was terrible. How I remember I had a school friend of mine. He was a good friend of mine, and he was trying to just like be like to me, you know, bro, this is happening. Open your eyes. And that he was the guy that was sleeping with my girl, and he was like to me, you know, I'm sleeping with your girl. You know that. Like, I just want to be honest with you. She's sleeping with me. You know, you should get rid of her. And I was like, no, she's not. And I just didn't want to believe it, right? And she was playing me, like. So eventually, it's a sad story, and I can go into so much more detail about it if anybody wants to hear. But that was like a real mad hiccup in my life that really screwed up my vibrations at school, and made me not focus, and I ended up going on a different path, which was definitely meant to be. I was never meant to finish school with the people that I knew from like the age of whatever it was, you know. And I look back at it and I'm sad about it, but it was a sad part of my life that I learned a lot of things. It was sad. I mean, it was happy as well, but it was very sad for sure. Yeah, I can talk about that in more detail. The army, what happened there, if anybody wants to hear more details about that, and eventually, yeah, and then the whole hiccup with, again, me and my mom were really tight growing up. We're very much alike. A lot like my father as well. Say 50-50, and I got a little bit of my own self in there. No, there's a lot of my own self in there, but they had a lot of influence in me, both of them. I had like a bad situation. I was working with my family my whole life. I just didn't want to one summer, and I wanted, you know, seeing all your friends around you have fun. And I was like, having it work, and yeah, I made money, but I was like, I want to have fun, I want to go out, but I didn't realize that you need money to enjoy that. So eventually when it happened that I was like out of work, and I was like, okay, I'm not working this summer, and I can't do shit. So I started to hang around with the wrong people, and we got into some bullshit, you know, minor things like selling weed and a bit of sniff and whatever, and it led to, long story short, our parents found out about it. I think we were using like Sony Ericsson phones, and a message that my good friend of mine was supposed to send, or he did send to this guy on location where we were supposed to meet, and all the details basically went to our parents as well. And we ended up going to like this place called Ayan Apur, had an amazing time, and then we came back, and our parents knew exactly what happened. They were like, oh, how did you guys enjoy yourselves? So we were like, yeah, it was okay. And yeah, we went out, drank. It was a whole other story. And then what happened after that, I don't know how all this happened, and I can go into so much more detail about it. My parents' bar / restaurant got nicked, robbed, and they went upstairs to the offices and took some stuff, and apparently took some stuff in the kitchen. There was no money really to be taken, and it was a disaster, to the point where my mom was like, oh yeah, the cops are going to question you because you're our son and you're part of the business. So one day I got a call, and like I had to go down to the police station. Me and my friends, we were like about to go out. We had like sangria. We got like bottles of sangria. We had it all in the car, a bunch of weed. And as we went out, we got out to go, I was like, guys, no, I need to go. My friends were like, no, we're coming with you. Thank God they did. And it was a whole disaster, me being questioned. Good cop, bad cop, in a chair, swinging you about. I was like, telling me, like I robbed the joint, and if it wasn't me, I was the mastermind behind it, and my friends did it. Like, what the? Anyway, if anybody wants to hear more details about that, please, by all means, that was a great lesson that we learned in life. And from there, things got so shit for me. I went to college. I was trying to like get myself into university and change my life about. And I just realized, I was like, you know, I don't know my dad really. I saw him on the weekends. We always had a good time. I saw him, get heated up. He's Greek. Greeks get heated up easy. But we never had like a true fight, you know? And I was like, yo, like, isn't that weird? My own dad, I can't remember like a really good fight. I can just always remember the good times. So I was like, he's in the Caribbean. He eventually left because he had such a love for the Caribbean. And he ended up coming to the Turks and Caicos Islands. He thought he was, and that's where I am at the moment, by the way. I don't know, you can't really see much, but in the back there is where the pool is, and you can kind of see the sea. I can anyway. And then I can see the ocean on this side as well. I can't see it on that side. Anyway, so he came to the Caribbean because he had such a love for it when he was with my mom back in the day in the Caribbean. And so I decided, all right, you know, my roots, kind of like a little bit of my roots were in the Caribbean. Let's go out there, even though it's not any of the places that I lived back in the day. It's still the Caribbean. Anyway, so I came out to the Turks and Caicos Islands, Providenciales, back in 2008. Came here. That was a chapter in my life. If y'all want to hear more about that, let me know. It was super interesting. Like, I met some really cool people. It was a growing up experience for me that I needed. And eventually, when I went back to Cyprus, went to college, I got myself into university. It was exactly what I needed. Like, it was the waking up call that I needed. It's the things that happened out here, the things that I experienced. And it got me ready for my next chapter, which was to go and educate myself and learn different things in a city. And I was like, I have to go and live in a city. And if I was American, I would have gone to New York or Chicago, which I ended up experiencing a lot of. But I went to London. My family, a lot of them live out there. A lot of Greek Cypriots go to London. It's very close, it's convenient for their studies. You do have a lot of other Greeks that go up to Greek Cypriots that go up to Washington. From living out here, I've been told is they have the biggest community for Greeks. Yeah, so I ended up living out here. It was an amazing experience. Learned a lot. Went back to Cyprus. Went to a college. Went to the same college actually that I went to where I just screwed up. And my project when I was prior there was amazing. I had like I'm an artist. Like that's me. I'm an artist. I've got a creative mind. But I did this project was like kind of like an installation. I was inspired by Tim Burton and his installations and his kind of like experiences they were doing. This was back in 2007. So I was like inspired by how he did some really cool back then. And I didn't get to experience it, but visually I did. And his websites were really cool. Like installations where you could walk through, and it was all kind of his world. It was super cool, but it inspired me on doing like some sort of installation. Anyway, back in 2008-9, that's when Avatar came out. So that heavily influenced me. So the project that I did that my tutor like dismissed completely was I saw that film and I was inspired by like the beauty of the nature and how nature was kind of it's been taken away by these like people that want the gold and whatever it was, you know, so nature had to suffer. And I was like, you know, why can't nature and technology work together? So I was like, that's what I want my project to be about, nature and technology working together. And I did an installation of a tree that had like basically like wires running through it, and the tree came out of a computer, and it was a tree with like kind of like the droplets were all kind of like lit up, and it was just beautiful. They dismissed it, hated the idea, and they said, oh yeah, technology and nature can never work together. I said, but what if they could? No, I'm not saying they can. What if they could? Anyway, yeah, so I came to the Caribbean, went back to that university, college. And at that college, what was my project? That's when I came across the idea of Maverick. So what inspired me, and that's, now I call myself Mavericks, just changed it from the CK to the X. But what inspired me originally was Mel Gibson's film Maverick, and he's continued to inspire me. The guy is such a cool guy. Everybody look out for the new movie he's doing on the Passion of Christ, the resurrection. That's going to be awesome. He's been doing years and years and years of research on this film, so it's going to be an awakening for all, I believe. But yeah, that film inspired me, and just like the rebel and the loose cannon, and he's a proper maverick, getting into trouble, always finding a solution, a way out. And then Johnny Depp inspired me again with Pirates of the Caribbean, and that character was very similar to Maverick, his character that Mel Gibson created. And it was awesome. But that was my project. I called my project Maverick. I'm going to explore all the different Mavericks, from James Dean to like Marlon Brando to the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards, Mick Jagger, to all these like innovators who like innovated and made things a bit cooler, and they got inspired and they had like a love for what they do. Free spirits, basically. So that was my project, and I ended up there was one option for me to get into one university called Southampton. And if no one knows about Southampton, that's where the Titanic set sail. But so it's and I actually was renting a house, my second house, and the owners were passengers of the Titanic, and I don't know if they were survivors or not, but yeah. University in Southampton, there was one option for me to get into, so ended up doing this college degree, which is really cool. And I really kind of, after being in the Caribbean and being open to all these new things in life, when I went to Cyprus, I was like, all right, I went to a private school before, let's really like indulge in my culture. So the college was a lot of Greek Cypriots, and I took time and I spent time with them and went out with them and did what they did on their mopeds and all this crazy cool shit. I tell you, really cool. Hooligans, basically, but cool hooligans, like the Italians. We got that mafia in us. Good food, good wine, good family, morals, and blah 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 blah. Anyway, yeah. So I took up that opportunity. Did really well. Got into that one option that I had, which was Southampton, and was like, all right, I'm gonna nail it. And what I went in for was fashion design, and what I actually wanted to do was fashion styling. And when I went in, I realized, I was like, oh shit, I'm doing fashion design. I was like when it was the induction, you listen about like the second years or the third years talk about their first year experience. I was like, yeah, this is not what I want to do. So I ended up leaving and going to, where was it? There was this like desk where you go and change. And I remember walking past and seeing fashion styling, and I was like, yo, that's what I want to do. So I ended up going into that room, re-signing my degree, and like everybody was selected to do this fashion styling degree, and I just walked in and I was like, hey guys, and I was the only guy, straight guy. If anybody wants to hear more about that, let me know, because there's a lot of drama, like, and funniness between me and my dad, and like, my dad's like a real man and Playboy, collects Playboy magazines galore, and into like his good music and good food and good this and that. And like for me to do fashion, he was like, what the fuck? Like, what are you doing? Is my son straight, right? It was super funny. My mom, graphic designer background, so she loved the idea. She was like, yo, this is great. I think they were both skeptical about, though, is he gonna make money from this? I never really looked. I was never like, I'm gonna go and study something just to make money. No, I was like, I'm gonna study this because this is what I love in this moment right now. This is what I love, and this fashion is something I love. So this is my brand, by the way, Curious Children. I'll be going into more about that. I'll have like an episode just about Curious Children and how I was inspired to do what I'm doing there, and If anybody wants t-shirts, let me know and I will get your address and send some to you. I'll be more than happy to. Website and that comes out once a month, so again, all the links will be available. Okay, anyway, where was I? Because I ain't got any notes here. I'm really doing this like kind of like there's no notes, and I got nothing on this side. How can I like, let me spin this around? There's no notes. All right. Where were we? Yeah, so I got, Southampton. I got myself into Southampton, and from there, I mean, that chapter was really cool itself. I learned so many cool things, from photography, editing, the studio, how to use it, lighting, history of fashion. You get exposed to all these cool magazines that if you love, and books about fashion, you can go crazy with. We were taught, one of our teachers was personal stylist to Nicole Kidman. She was an Australian lady, I forget her name now. We had some big teachers, yo. The experience was amazing. Anyway, I was fully inspired. Like, I was there, I was like, okay, I'm here, I gotta focus. I was always distracted by bullshit, and I was like, this time around, no one is distracting me. So I was like fully focused. I had opportunities to get with some beautiful women, and I turned them down, guys. That again is a funny story itself. Some beautiful women, and I was just like so focused. But the experiences that happened there, I would say at university, got me ready for that next chapter, which was London basically. But I knew from what I learned at university that next chapter I had to go into London, and I had to intern as a fashion stylist, as an intern, to free work, to gain experience, and then eventually work as like a fifth assistant or whatever, and work your way up the ladder till you get there. I knew what I had to do through all the teachers and the experience, and what they taught us basically was, it was clear. If that's how, if you want to make it, that's what you got to do. And it's like being an actor, it's like being a musician. You've got to do free work, mate. That's how it is. But again, the experience is amazing. I moved into London, didn't have a lot of opportunity of where I was going to stay, didn't have money to choose a nice place, so I had to stay with my grandma, my dad's mother, and I didn't know much about them. So I was like, this is an opportunity again for me to learn a little about it wasn't never about, do I like this or not. I'm gonna learn from this, you know. So I went in there and I was like, I'm eager to learn. Let's learn more about my aunt, who dealt with injecting, you know, herself, diabetes her whole life. And my grandma and them just living together their whole lives. I was like, you know, let's try and help as much as we can, and let's learn as well. You know, everything is learning, yin and yang. You know, you learn the good, you learn the bad. They teach you something, you teach them something. Things were, you know, tight there. So in the beginning, when I moved there was no internet. When I moved there, I made sure I got internet for them, taught them all about my auntie, about the internet and this, that, and the other, that she now uses every day, thanks to moi. Hey, it's good to do things for other people. You help them. I hope she's not abusing the technology though. Anyway, yeah, I lived there and I needed some freedom, so I'd go and see my uncle. And he lived in a really nice area in London, Hampstead Heath. I can tell you more about all that if you want to hear it. Hanged around with one of my rebel cousins that I ended up meeting at a wedding, and I hanged about with him just to learn more, you know, about that side of the family. He was well connected, and with like London, you know, he knew London like the back of his hand. He was, anyway, yeah, if you want to hear more about that, super fun. But yeah, I'm gonna go a little bit into about fashion, so if anybody's intrigued and wants to hear anything, I mean, I've got a lot of experience in fashion for sure. But when I went into London and I was living with my grandma, there was nothing pleasant about being at home. So everything for me was like, I'm not in London for anything else apart from let's make it. So I looked online and you know, I was looking at different free internships that I can go to, and there was one I found that I was like, okay, I think I applied to like loads, and there was this one that came back to me and they said, okay, meet at this location, this time, blah, blah, blah. So I went to this cool, I remember walking down this street and I'm going past this huge library, there's people selling stuff down the road, you see hippies walking everywhere, people in like cool clothes, and you're like, okay, I'm in a cool area here. And I didn't know where I was, can't remember it. Ended up walking on this high street, down on a road, down an alley, down the alley, there was like a door on the right where a lot of people were waiting, and I ended up approaching and everybody was waiting for the same thing, so I was like, same location. They told us to bring suitcases with us, which we did. Everybody has suitcases with them. And then someone came down. They said, all right, let's go upstairs, let's get these clothes, put them into the suitcases. They gave us all different addresses, and we had to basically work as runners and send the clothes back after the photo shoot was done. And it was a good photo shoot. I forget which one it was, but I remember blagging to the lady after I was done. I forget her name now and where she was from, but she was like Eastern European. I remember saying to her like, my cousin owns a truck, which he didn't own a truck, but I mean, it wasn't like I lied. He didn't own a truck, but he knew someone with a truck. So if we needed to get the truck, we could have got it like this. So that's why I said this. I was like, we own a truck. Instead of us doing this with on foot, if you want, next time we can, put all the clothes in one truck, and I don't mind spending the whole day and taking everything back. And she said, yeah, and we can pay for the petrol. We can do that. That's so cool. I could have started a company right there. And anyway, but that got me my foot in the door. So she was like, all right, yeah, I'll keep you in mind, we'll call you back. So anyway, I remember being in Bristol with a good friend of mine, and you're going to see a lot of this guy, by the way. We've got the same tattoo. We're going to have an interview with him. He's a legend. OB. That's his nickname, all right? Anyway, but yeah, I went over there to Bristol again. I wanted to like experience where my bro lives in his life, and he was going through a different chapter in his life. So it was like, crazy what I was able to experience there. But at the same time, it was amazing. Went to some cool festivals, and it was some real fun times for me. But before, I had to go to my graduation in Southampton. So this all happened to me like right before graduation. I don't know how many people experienced what I was able to experience before graduation, but the lady calls me and she's like, hey, I got a music video, I need some help, are you willing to come? I was like, yeah, I'm in Bristol, I can come tomorrow, blah blah blah. So I went, and it wasn't until the second day. So I went into London, stayed at where my mum was going to come in for graduation and that, and ended up leaving early in the morning. I remember I was in Leighton and got a train for like an hour all the way to Black Island Studios, and it was a music video for this like rock band, like almost like One Direction. I forget their name now. And who was on set? Dynamo was doing tricks in one of the scenes. He's a magician, for the ones of you that don't know who he is. I think he's changing his name now, he's gone to his real name. And there was that lady, Maisie Williams from the Game of Thrones, and she was there. She was in like, she was in all of the scenes, and I think she knew him and she was doing it for free, I think. And there was like, I remember this on the call sheet when she sent it to me. Gordon Ramsay's daughter was there, and there was like some, the two main people for me was Dynamo, the magician, and Maisie Williams from Game of Thrones, just because I was watching Game of Thrones. I was like, I remember when I was smoking, and she was like, oh, do you have a cigarette for me? She came outside, and she was like looking for a cigarette, and I was on my own, and she ended up approaching me, and we started talking, and I remember the conversation was like, basically, I remember she said something about traveling, and she travels so much that it's like time travel for her. And she was really cool, big eyes, small girl, beautiful dress, and I was like, and the scene was like powder paint everywhere. I was like, are you okay? Like, this dress is getting ruined. She was like, yeah, it's okay. I've worn it for the Emmys or whatever, or the Grammys or whatever. I was like, but I like to be normal. Like, we're all human, So she approached me because I had that right energy, and we spoke as normal people. And I remember after that, like, there was like someone waiting like not too far, and he was, after I finished, he was like to me, oh, can you go and tell her I really like her and I want a photograph? And I was like, yeah, I really like her, and I didn't ask her for a photograph, go and ask her photograph yourself. But eventually before she was leaving, I was like, hey, my friend is over there, he really wants a photograph, really likes you. Made that happen as well. But anyway, yeah, that was a really good opportunity right before graduation. And then after graduation, went into London, and there was a lot that happened there. I don't really want to go into it too much, but I'm going to say a little bit just to get your interest. With working with Katie England, she was one of my like first jobs really, down Kingsland Road, down London. And she, people that don't know, she made her name with Alexander McQueen as his stylist. So he's huge. He like pioneered fashion in my sense, and couture fashion for sure, and street fashion a little bit. I think he was right there when that shift was happening. But I ended up working with her and her team, James Campbell, who was her first assistant for a long time, and the rest of it is amazing as well. I ended up, like, the chances of this happening, my dad, who was managing hotels out here and villas as a management company, my cousin, who we're gonna have an interview with the guy because he's super interesting, and he's my cousin and we're blood, we're soul brothers, and called brothers as well, for real. But he was living out here prior to when I came out here, and when I came out here in the beginning, he was living out here, but that's a whole story again as well. But anyway, he, talkative guy, like kind of really likes to really enjoy himself, but sometimes takes advantage of things and doesn't realize he's doing it. But he's so like gentle about it, if you know what I mean. Like, he doesn't mean half of the stuff that happens. But anyway, he ended up meeting this lady called, I forget her name now. How can I forget her name? But she is a hairstylist, and she works for, like, she's on the Streeters. So Katie England's on the Streeters, biggest agency for fashion in England. Like, it's the biggest one. You've got Nick Knight under there. There's the biggest names, I'm telling you. Anyway, she works for them. She got me an interview. I mean, she interviewed me when she said, let's meet up, because my cousin connected me with her. She interviewed me when she was in London, and because she's based in New York, and she ended up liking me, and she gave me an opportunity, and I worked with three people with her. No, one guy assistant who was working for James Campbell. No, not James Campbell. James Campbell's, I forget his name now. But anyway, and then I ended up working for Dazed and Confused magazine, which I've got a couple of magazines with my name in there as an assistant, and Hunger magazine, which Rankin both started. Those magazines are dope, and the history and the location down Old Street. I wasn't too far away from Kingsland Road, so I knew the area. It was, when I say it was amazing. Like, and that's what really made me realize I like manifested this. Like, I was on my train rides back and forth through Christmases and this and that. I'd be like reading all these magazines that I bought, or on the weekends I'd be like sitting outside getting some sun, reading magazines, and I was heavily trying to get myself into the magazines, and I knew they were full of secrets. Like, all these magazines, they've got all these names there, and everything is there. If you bother to look, you will find all the details you need, everything. And anyway, so I realized I manifested everything. So life really, and I learned about London, and I didn't have any internet in the beginning, so I was like really having to ask people and take snapshots on my iPad, and it was all about memory and learning, and then I got the internet on my phone eventually because I was making money. But through all that experience, I ended up working. I had to make money, so I was working as a waiter, and I worked with this great company called Off to Work. And again, with them, that journey that I had through hospitality was what made me get into hospitality over here and actually forget about fashion as a career. But I use fashion every day. Everything I learned in my fashion degree, as a manager, as a butler, working at villas and estates out here, it helps to be able to read someone through just what they're wearing. You're able to say the right thing, connect, and it makes everybody feel at home. If you can do that, that's number one in hospitality. Boom, you're in. But yeah, again, if you want to hear more about my hospitality, like, I'm gonna do an episode just on hospitality, so you're gonna hear a little bit about my career in hospitality. But if anybody does want to hear anything more of what I just said there, just let me know, comment below, and I got you. But yeah, I ended up hustling it both. Ended up meeting my cousin randomly, who was a big hairstylist working with Tony and Guy. He was living down London, down some real shitty area. Didn't know, I was like, I needed a place to live, so I was like, yeah, I'll live with you. And it was the shittiest house, shittiest area. We were living on top of like a store on like some main street, McDonald's on the corner. It stank. It was a really bad area. But it teaches you things, you know. I needed that in my life, actually. I really, really needed that. At the time, didn't know what was going on, but then when I look back at it, I really needed that in my life. It got to a point of interning, and I was like, am I really getting anywhere? I've gained some really cool experience. What I can actually do right now is maybe go to where my dad is in the Caribbean, my cousin's there already, help them in any way I can, and if I need to work as a waiter, I can, and at the same time try and connect with some clients in America and start working in America. So that was my, that's what I wanted to do. So I ended up coming out here, and that was my next chapter. And I was here, I've been here now for 10 years, imagine. And a lot has happened out here. Throughout the 10 years, I've got maybe, I want to say there's probably 10 really good stories that I can share, maybe more. So on this chapter here, I'm gonna go into detail, maybe do for one story 3 chapters, because I've got a lot to talk about, and maybe even just do one of the subjects, because there's a lot of shit that happened with family. But it's good for people to hear and learn about what I had to go through, because you can learn from it as well, because in the moment you feel so distant and so balled up, or whatever the emotion is. So yeah, this, remember, is all about sharing and talking, and we're almost up. We're on 42 minutes. I didn't want to make this too long. I want to keep this under 60 minutes, so we're almost wrapped up now. So I came to the Caribbean, worked with my dad, ended up reconnecting with someone I met out here, was working with them, who they own a French restaurant. So I was kind of doing my own thing, and I needed to do that to get myself out of the house at night, because my cousin was a big character, my dad's a big character, I'm a big character. We were all living in the same house. It was just I was like, okay, this is good. I can make some extra money here, and I was making good money working with my dad, working at a restaurant in the evenings. I was like, come on then. And anyway, yeah. So that's what happened for me, and now my current position, I manage a restaurant. I freelance mainly on creative jobs as a stylist, and the ideas I like to give are more sustainable. So if anybody needs any sustainable ideas on anything, or anything creative in general, let me know, and I could help you out with a project or anything, any ideas you need. I'm there for you. Call me Mr. Mavericks, the curious child. This is Curious Children, but I am a curious child. I continuously love to learn. I'm going to be a student for a long time. A masters are within us all. Remember that. But yeah, I currently manage a restaurant, and I freelance here and there on some projects as a stylist. But my main work is hospitality, and I work as a butler as well, so here and there with the VIP clientele. I can't really talk too much about some of the private jobs I do with VIP clientele, just because I have to sign a DA, and it's very, very, and I'm not hiding my face. So if I was hiding my face, it'd be a whole different story. I'd maybe be able to share these stories, but I am not. So don't ask me questions about my villa work, but I do work freelance as a butler as well. So if anybody needs a cool mixologist, or just a cool character that they need that can do everything, a man of many skills, I am your guy. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this long episode, and like I said, comment below anything I can help with idea wise there. Since living out here, I mean, let's try and sum this up somehow. I've lived out here now for 10 years. What I've learned in 34 years of living, because that's my age right now, is that this last chapter of my life has made me realize that I don't need half of the things that I needed in my life. Meaning, I grew up and I needed the cinema, I needed this, I needed that, I needed, you know, so many things. But living out here for 10 years, you realize that you don't need those things that thought you needed, that you thought made you happy. Do you know what I mean? So that's for me right now. I've really got into my gardening, I've got into my spirituality. I'm dealing with issues before in a whole different way. I was dealing, let's say, with issues on a vibration here. Now I'm dealing with issues on a vibration here. So I'm more collectively conscious, let's call it that. We spend time on the beach out here. We're in our flip-flops half of the time. I'm in my flip-flops right now. You know, we're connected with nature, we're connected to each other. Our egos are, you know, someone who's living in a city, again, their frequencies, let's say here. We're here, living here, we're on this frequency. Someone in the Amazon's on this frequency. So that someone in the Amazon doesn't even, like, we're still connected to the normal frequency through normal things that we have to do, like going to the shop and this and that, and normal stress that comes into people's lives. But like the person in the Amazon, ego, their ego is completely different to our ego. Their anger is completely different to the way we deal with anger, and so on and so forth. So again, anybody wants to hear more about spirituality and a bunch of other cool things that I've got into, like making beer, gardening tips, fashion, styling, history, religion, different religions, family issues, breakups, music, art, you name it, I'm here for you. Politics, I don't really understand. That's something I would love to understand though. So if anybody's up for it and, you know, wants to have an interview with me, or they want me to interview them and they know about politics and can share with me some knowledge about politics, I would love to expand my knowledge there as well. So anyway, let's get this wrap in before 50 minutes because we're on 46 now. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for whoever has taken their time to watch this whole video. If you've skipped it, I've skipped videos before, so that's completely fine. I'm Mavericks, and yeah, next episode will be out soon. All right, thank you, and bless to everybody.